Hello and welcome to Chat UTD, and this is my reaction to United 7 SEVEN nil win against Barnsley in the League Cup last night. Do you know, it's so nice to be positive and to have a game to report on, which was just brilliant, really. You can say, of course, it was Barnsley, it was the League Cup, it was a low-key game. We were expected to win, etc. All of that's true, but we've had lots of occasions against teams of a similar kind of equivalent, and we haven't beaten them 7-0. That's United's biggest win for an awful long time. It was great to see people expressing themselves, playing some really good football, and again, even against lesser opposition, with no disrespect to Barnsley, in the past, we haven't. We've come up short. We might have won, but we've not played particularly well. We've not really learned a lot. It's just been a bit of a dead game where we've won and we've gone, okay, move on to the next one. I think we learned a lot from last night, and I think potentially if players can then convert that confidence that hopefully they get from that into coming games, then potentially that could be a really important evening in our season. And it was just particularly in the second half, it was just great to see some one-touch football, players playing with confidence, players showcasing their ability, albeit against lower opposition. Casemiro, some of his one-touch passing, you see him against that level of opposition, and you think, this is what it looks like when he's got time on the ball. I don't want to, talk about anything that negative today, but he probably in the summer I think he'd have been better off going somewhere like France or even Spain or Saudi or wherever, because I think he'd be an absolute world beater in those divisions because he'd have more time on the ball. And we saw that last night. His vision, his touch, his confidence. He just looked an absolute Rolls Royce last night. But unfortunately, in the Premier League, you don't have time to showcase those talents. Some of the passing footballs, again, some one-touch football, the movement. I mean, their defence was absolutely awful. But didn't we punish them so well? Some brilliant goals, some great clinical counter-attacking football, great choice of pass, great decision making. But all the players just look relaxed, and it's that combination of being relaxed, playing against lesser opposition, and being hungry. And I think you can take two of those things into the Premier League. If you can relax, if you can be hungry at the same time, I think this team can certainly improve beyond what we've seen so far. We can overcomplicate football. We can talk about systems. You can talk about styles of play, etc. In its essence, it's a simple game, and what we did last night, okay, we're up against, as I say, a really poor defence. It was just simple stuff done brilliantly well by players who are better than the opposition. Let's look at some individuals. I've mentioned Casemiro. Garnacho has had a difficult start to the season because he's not been played as much as he would want to, and last season he was a starter pretty much every week, and he's not sulking. His body language hasn't changed. His hunger, his desire. He lost the ball in the second half. So it might be the first half actually, and he absolutely haired back like a lunatic to try and win it back. In the second half, at 5 or 6-0 up, he was tracking back, trying to win the ball back. He's tough. He's strong. His awareness of what's around him is really good. His finishing. The second goal looks a walk in the park goal. It isn't, because he had so much time to think about it. I love that goal. It's a brilliant piece of play. Eriksen, what a pass. And yeah, I love it. What a finish. Brilliant. He scored like a fox in the box type of goal for his first goal. I thought he was superb. And that is how a manager will want a player to respond to being on the bench. You're playing a game against Barnsley. You're not too big for your boots. You play to your absolute maximum that you can. You play with a smile on your face, and you terrorise them, which is what he did. He was superb. Eriksen, again, a chance to see the class of the man, because in the Premier League we don't get to see that, because he doesn't really suit playing in a busy hub of a midfield. But when he's got time on the ball, like last night, again, that pass for Garnacho's goal, it's just a thing of beauty. And 2 goals, two goals himself, which is great to see. Another player who probably shouldn't really still be at Old Trafford, but a great night for him nonetheless. Collier, I like him. I like Collier playing at left back. But I tell you what, for what looks like a skinny kid, yeah, half tough, and he puts himself in there, and he's quite strong. Uh, Looks to carry himself with a bit of presence. I think his posture's good. He's again, I look a lot of body language. I'll probably go on about it on here quite a lot. Probably players that don't show good body language I talk about quite a bit. Strong, positive body language. Looks like he believes in himself. Doesn't look like, oh, I'm lucky to be here. Has that kind of like, yeah, I'm all right here. Didn't do himself any harm at all last night. Thought he was really good. Again, I know against poor opposition, but there was what he got. He gave a free kick away in the first half, and the lad that he went up against was twice the size of him. And you played against big, burly League One players. He just went bang, fucking have that. And again, I think I like the cut of his jib, I like that. And no, I'm going to save him to last. Anthony, he was decent, and he scored a goal, and he was industrious. I don't think it's going to turn around for Anthony, unfortunately, at United. But it's nice to see him play again with a smile on his face, and you watch him when he tries to beat a man for pace. His pace over the first few yards is pretty decent, but the player that's chasing him always catches up with him, and then he has to try and he either tries to push him out of the way, or he cuts back and passes it inside. He rarely ever beats a man for skill. I don't really know what he offers, and I was so excited when he signed, and I really wanted him to do well, and I thought we saw snippets in the first season of a player, but he's not kicked on, and I didn't even yesterday, I didn't see a player that can make it at the top level, unfortunately, but nonetheless a better night for him. And right, if anyone watches this channel regularly, you know that I've been rightly, in my opinion, very, very critical of Rashford. But credit where it's due. We have to consider the level of opposition, like I've caveated with all of the players I've been talking about, and the whole team performance. We have to look at the level of opposition. But I think it was an inspired decision from Ten Hag last night to play Rashford, not just play him, but play him up front, because he probably thought he'll have a field day up there, which is what he did. There wasn't as much pressure on him. Again, he had more time, and I think him being up there around Anthony, who's not really played, Garnacho, who's a younger player, and amongst perhaps less established members of the squad, it gave him a role of leadership, but against opposition where he could handle that. And I've long since said that he's been thrust into a position that he's not ready for and he's not capable of carrying. And if he was a 120 grand a week player, I wouldn't have a problem with him. But it's his profile, it's who he's supposed to be, and he's not able to do it. But also body language and lack of application, and etc. Last night there was no problem with any of that. I thought his body language was really positive. He did what he does well. He was strong, he was quick, he was direct. It wasn't always perfect. I think it was Garnacho's first goal where he did that kind of like tap, 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 and then he completely lost control of it, hit the Barnsley player, and it went through to Garnacho. And in some ways, he's involved in the goal, but it was a bit of a mess, to be honest with you. But he isn't Mbappe. He's Marcus Rashford. And he, as I say, he was direct, he was strong. He scored. His first goal was very, very well taken. Great take out of the air, great first touch, got it out of his feet. Super goal. And giving the penalty to Anthony, I think, again, shows leadership, shows empathy towards his teammates. He was involved indirectly or directly with 4 goals. In fact, I suppose if you include the Eriksen goal, the Garnacho's second goal, he was the one that just bounced past it back to Eriksen before Eriksen did the assist. So you could say 5 goals. And the biggest thing, I saw a picture last night on social media, I can't remember whose account it was on, and it showed a picture of Rashford after one of the goals with a big, authentic, beaming smile on his face. Not a fake one, not one where he's trying to look happy for the cameras, but he's actually looks like he'd rather be anywhere else but on the football pitch. He looked genuinely happy. And at the heart of all this, there's a young man who is probably struggling to find his way in the world to some degree without wanting to sound patronising. And it's just nice to see him look like he wants to be there. These are not high barometers of success, by the way, that I'm talking about. Now, by no means am I thinking he's going to go on and win the Ballon d'Or now, but you have to give credit where it's due. And I thought generally, given what he's capable of doing, I think that was an outstanding performance last night from him. And his body language was far better. And the key now, and this is where I think unfortunately he'll fall short without wanting to put a dampener on it, is have you got it in your locker to do that on Saturday against Crystal Palace, and then the week after against, is it Villa or Tottenham, whoever we've got next, FC20? Can you do it week in, week out for the next season coming forward? Because we've endured watching him for 50, 60 games be terrible, and that one goal at the weekend and a better performance and the 2 goals last night doesn't just negate all that. You have to kick on, you have to be consistent, and I don't think he is good enough to do that, but prove me wrong, Marcus. Please prove me wrong, because we need you to. And there's a player in there, and hopefully last night does him the world of good with confidence. But well done to Ten Hag for picking him up front. I think maybe the way forward, because you can't drop Garnacho, I don't think, is that at the weekend perhaps Garnacho plays left, Rashford plays up front, and Ahmad plays on the right. It's not always worked with Rashford up front, but a lot of that has been because he's not been interested. A lot of the time he's played up front, he's not been bothered. If you look at the season when he scored 30 goals, he played up front quite a bit and scored goals. If he's interested, if he's keen, if he's confident, if his body language is right, if he's applying himself, he's got all the attributes, really, to certainly be better than Xerxes, who I thought did very little when he came on, by the way. So, credit where it's due. Good performance from Rashford last night, and good to see, and hopefully the start of something that you can build on. There's a couple of slight negatives. I didn't get the subs. I didn't get making risky subs like Bruno and De Ligt, and Mazraoui, who apparently had a knock, and De Ligt had a cramp at the weekend. Why are you bringing him on with 20 minutes and 15 minutes to go when we're annihilating the opposition in front of us? And surely it's not going to do Johnny Evans and Maguire any harm to play the whole game, or even Dalot. And why I brought Bruno on. That all just seemed a bit weird. And I don't know for the life of me, don't know why it didn't bring Wheatley on. Well, it's an open goal to bring him on. He's a young lad. We're absolutely annihilating the opposition. Just bring him on and let him see if he can get a goal for himself. You know, I think there's a bit of a myth around Ten Hag and his promotion of youth. He's done well with Mainu and he's done well with Garnacho, but they're 2 brilliant talents. Who am I to say anyone could have brought them through? That I might be completely wrong with that, but I think they would be playing whoever the manager was, because they're 2 players from that FA Youth Cup winning team that stand out. And Garnacho stood out in the FA Youth Cup winning team. Mainu probably less obvious, but Garnacho definitely did. But you look at last night, you look at the bench, there's hardly any youngsters on there. They're all established players, because I don't think he particularly trusts that we're going to get the job done. So then he brings all the established players on. The only player really could have brought on was Wheatley. He didn't bring him on. Amas isn't in the squad. We haven't got a left back, and our youth left back, who's full of promise, isn't even in the squad. Unless I've mistaken something there, but I don't think he was in the squad. So that's one criticism last night, is that I'd like to seen young players certainly get half an hour. But I suppose the fact that we went on from 4-0 to 7-0 probably is because he brought the more established players on, and maybe it gives them a bit of confidence. Typically, the person that mows all the lawns around here has started as I'm doing this video, but we're too far in for me to stop now, so apologies for the background noise. My summary of last night is we made the absolute most of what could otherwise seem to be quite an inconsequential game. That's a dead game, really. You're going to beat Barnsley 2 or 3-0, 2-1, you scrape through, whatever, and no one knows anything more about it. It's just like it's a footnote in your season. You win 7-0, You're forced to the front. Starboy scores 2 goals. Garnacho, who's not been in the team, scores 2 goals. Casemiro runs the ship and looks like he's like rolled back the years. And everyone has a spring in their step. There's no such thing as a game that doesn't matter if you take the opportunity to make the most of that game, and that's what we did last night. It was really, really good to see. And you know, we're not gonna like win the quadruple that's available to us this season because we won that game 7-0 against Barnsley last night. But it's so nice to be able to sit here and talk about pretty much exclusively positive stuff. And Palace is a big test, big test at the weekend. I'll do a preview probably on Friday around that. But well done, boys. Up the Reds. Glazers out.